Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, da doo-dah day.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Last Man Standing. Running two shows on the same night, back to back, can get to be a little bit complicated. That is why we are about 2-3 minutes late, because I had to let the credits roll, the end credits for Stupid O'Clock. So, without further ado, but much ado about nothing, we will add Aunt Donna and Rich and another. Oh, here we go with Chris too. So hail, the gang's mostly here. And
yeah, I just saw something dangerous.
Oh,
At least to my bank account. So there's a company out there called Ultra Sabers that allows you to custom make lightsabers for if you're cosplaying Jedi and stuff like that.
oh yeah.
In the 80s, there's a cartoon called Thundercats.
remember it well.
Sword of Omens.
They've got the hilt for the Sword of Omens for a lightsaber.
Oh,
265 base. That's before you start building up from there.
Yeah.
now I always thought that it was really interesting that all the characters on the show were anthropomorphic felines. And when the hero was calling them all together, he was basically using a laser pointer.
Yep. Feel the magic, hear the roar.
Well, it was bad because every time, he was like, Thundercats, ho! I'm like, that's no way to talk about your car.
Well, since you have a
You almost owed me a keyboard right then.
Since you were talking about a Thundercats hilt for a lightsaber, when you do the feel the magic, hear the roar, then you have the roar of the twin ion engine fighters.
Oh Lord!
Did you know that kind of roar when They come into a scene.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I miss my childhood.
Oh.
I
I'm
miss not
glad I'm
having
going to
to pay
get a chance
bills.
to relive it here shortly. Oh, it's too late for my second childhood. I'm already working on the fifth, okay?
Shit, all I've got to do for free room and board is mow the goddamn lawn. Show me the push mower.
Yep.
Of course, can't do that anymore.
This is true.
Mm.
Sometimes I wish my little brother hadn't been so careless with the tractor. He promises he will get the tires fixed, and I hope he doesn't decide it needs new brakes, because that's like a 3-man job right there.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, Dad and I used to do it together, because Dad was 2 men right there, and I was
Mm-hmm.
probably 2.5, and I was the half of the third there. But I don't know. Well, no, knowing my brother, he'll probably just take it to a shop and have somebody professional do the work, and then I'm going to be wondering whether or not they managed to reconnect all the springs the way it's supposed to, because it's a early 60s model tractor, and sometimes you want those brakes to work really well, so it had separate brakes for the right and left rear tire. So you're plowing a field, you come up to a corner, you raise the plow up out of the ground, you stomp one brake or the other, you make a 90-degree turn, drop the plow, let it go without ever slowing down. That thing is wide open. I don't even remember how fast the tachometer was going. Uh, Somewhere well above 1800 RPM. And you had to pretty much adjust the hydraulics so that the plow was not going to bury itself and cause the tractor to just go, emergency brake. You had to lift it up a little bit more, even if that meant that you had to go and plow that a little bit deeper later on. But you needed to get the ground covered, or uncovered, as the case may be. Sometimes you could do some speed racer stuff with the tractor. I mean, seriously. You would not believe something that size would do right angle turns.
You'd be surprised.
It will. It'll do 360s just as well if you don't let up on that brake just in time.
If it's a certain age tractor and it has no power steering, that's where it gets really fun.
Oh, we had I think all 3 that we had at one time they had power steering or power assist, because we had to fix the hydraulics in it every once in a while.
Well,
But, hey,
my dad and grandfather's old tractor had manual steering.
Well, yeah, at low speed, that would certainly give you an upper body workout trying to turn the wheel, because it's about like
at
trying.
high speed, it'll really you up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was fun was the tractor would have power steering. Then you'd go to drive the truck or your car, and
it did
that wouldn't.
Yeah.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, my grand
Welcome to the wonderment that was the 1967 GMC pickup.
I
No
started
power
to say,
steering, and you're out there in the middle of a pasture getting hay bales, and
mhm.
you're the designated driver
slight.
because you're too little to pick up the hay bales and throw them 6 feet up in the air
Mhm.
to be loaded
Slight
on the truck.
deviation from that. Try 65 Chevrolet with a wooden bed. The
Oh,
manual steering and a 3 on the tree, and it looks like a damn huge ass pipe wrench for parking brake.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The parking brake under the dash that came up towards you, like you go, oh, if this thing ain't gonna work, I'm gonna get hit in the face. Yeah. Um, Dad was a staunch GM fan because he went to the General Motors Institute
Yeah.
to learn being a machinist. So he would not buy other than General Motors products,
Mm,
um, except when it came to the tractors, because GM don't make tractors.
yep.
We had Ford Blue, the big blue in one case. Um,
Eight
you had to
ends.
have, oh no, um, 2600, uh, 4600, and 7600. That one had a
Well,
turbo.
yeah. My grandfather had the 65 Chevy, but after that, he bought Fords.
Well, I've got to tell you, the difference in the engineering from a mechanic's
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, having to repair stuff,
Mm-hmm.
there were significant differences.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes things were designed oddly and not with a mechanic in mind.
Yeah.
Thankfully, those are the things that took the longest to wear out.
Yeah. The interesting thing was I was asking my grandmother about it, and ironically enough, she said her dad, who was a sawmiller, had Dodge trucks
Mm.
because they were the only ones that could handle the rough terrain of the areas that they
Yep,
cut trees down.
that makes sense. They were geared a little bit lower ratio, and most of the time they had fatter tires, and they
And
were a
I'm
little bit
not sure
higher.
because, and I'm not sure because she was little when this was going on. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were power wagons either.
Hmm, that is a point. Now, the first Dodge truck I ever had to drive was diesel,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it was longer than an 18-foot bed
Mm-hmm.
farm truck, and they had that thing piled high with hay. And these are the square bales, not the big round bales. Those things
Yep.
came
Mhm.
along after my time, and that you could get about 4 tons of hay on one of those things. You had to be careful, but you could do it.
Yeah.
And I was told to take it over to the barn, not our barn,
Yeah.
somebody else's barn, somebody else's truck. I was told take it over to the barn, back it up as close as you can get without hitting anything, turn it off.
Yeah.
I was not aware it was diesel. I turned the key off and it kept running.
Up here.
And I'm going, what the what? And we had 2 diesel tractors, so I should have known to look for the fuel cutoff pull knob like a choke. But I was in a panic. It didn't cross my mind that that's what I needed to do. And I've got this thing out of gear, the emergency brake locked, and I can't get the motor to shut off, and I can't find the fuel shut off. And finally I go, okay, I'll put it into 8th gear and let off on the clutch, and that'll kill it right then because, it's too high a gear for it to pull forward. Boy, was I wrong. with the brakes locked, it tried to plow a trough through and I had to back it up again. And by that time, I finally saw the fuel shut off. And I still had the key off at this time, and motor still running. I finally got it shut down, and I go, if they ever do this to me again,
Yeah.
they better be buying me a Snickers bar or something, because this is bullying right here.
Yeah.
Candy
Well-
bar. Oh Lord.
I don't remember what kind of trucks we are, but I imagine they were Chevy since that's what our cars were. But here in John Deere country, we had all of our tractors.
Mm-hmm. Well, my grandfather had a Farmall Cub, and my dad had a Massey Ferguson 230.
The only thing I didn't like about those 2 brands was when you hooked up a bush hog to it,
Mm-hmm.
it was in between the front and the back wheels.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed very awkward to me
Yeah.
because with the Ford, you just pull the hydraulic lever, everything in back rose up into the air, and it sounded like one of the UFOs from the Jerry Anderson UFO TV program.
Yeah.
It would you had to turn the PTO off to get that to stop, but you're mowing a field, so you don't turn it off. You just lift it up and go, hey, that's a great sound. And stomp one brake and turn a right angle and drop it back down.
Yep.
Keep going.
The ironic thing is my dad sold the tractor to my grandfather, so he kept it in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that 230 was a stout little tractor.
You'd be amazed at what some of these small ones will do. It's not the amount of horsepower, it's the torque.
Yeah.
They can pull. I mean, you put it down in low, you put it down in first gear, and if it's one of those that has a split transmission where you've got a little lever to go from low to high, you drop that thing in the lowest gear it's got. It could tow Stone Mountain to Alabama, basically. If you can find a chain long enough to wrap around it.
Yeah. But I had some family members back when Dad lived in South Georgia with the tractor talk about some of the stuff it could do. They couldn't believe that sucker could do. And of course, so my grandfather lives up here in North Georgia, so he put it to different uses, but because he had different attachments for it and stuff like that, and of course he sold different attachments for it as well. So,
yeah,
but it was always fun trying to help him get something taken off and then something else put back on.
Yes. My least favorite thing was the disc harrow. That's how I wound up with a couple of bones in my foot broken when we were hooking it up, and
Mhm.
Dad could not see how one of the arms was getting bent as he
Well,
was trying to back up and get to where I could latch the other arm because I was the one on the ground, and it rolled back over my foot.
oh,
Mm.
And
but that,
you're talking about ton, maybe a ton and a half of angle iron and big old steel discs, and I got it hooked up, but I limped for a little while.
oh, obviously, and my grandfather kept looking for cutting harrows,
Mm,
and he didn't like the ones he had because he'd either have to put like concrete blocks and stuff on it to help weigh it down to get it to dig deep enough because they were
mhm.
lighter. Well, he finally found this one he bought. That sucker is heavy. I mean, it cuts deep. And you wouldn't think that little tractor could pick that sucker up. It strains it a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit.
I always
When I
liked the
first
ones
saw
that
it, I didn't think it was going to be able to do it, but damned if it did.
I always liked the one that we had for the biggest tractor,
Mm
and it wasn't hooked up to the hydraulic arms.
hmm. Mm hmm.
It had its own hydraulic system to raise and lower with its own wheels,
Mm hmm.
and that thing was about 10 feet wide, and we put a 12 foot, no, 14 foot wide drag bar behind it to smooth
Mm
everything out. That thing, if you were trying to cut up a piece of ground that had not been farmed since World War II,
hmm. Mm hmm.
that was what you wanted because it was going to bury itself
Mm
up to the axles of the discs themselves, and it was going to turn things over. And that tractor is about 94 horsepower,
Mm.
hmm. Yeah.
so it could pull.
Oh, yeah.
And you could actually if it's a unprepared field you'd never been in before, you just had it bush hogged, and you going through there,
Mm
it
hmm.
would bury the discs to their optimum functioning height and pull it like they weighed nothing.
Yeah.
You could actually do plowing up in the high gear range, which is not typical for a tractor.
Yeah.
Oh God! And now Nick Tockert's sitting in the background watching us
Mm
day after tomorrow, going, "Yeah, he's one of the old gods, Appalachia. Yep, yep, yep." Yeah.
hmm.
Oh Lord.
Well, if you've ever had to grow your own food or tend to a little sizable piece of property, chances are you've had to get on a tractor of some sort.
Mm.
Yeah. When soybeans became fashionable, we wound up. Um, Not only did we have our 68 acres, but
Hmm.
Dad rented enough land from retired farmers and retired farmers' widows to where we had 400 acres. And
I
I had
think.
to learn how to drive all over the county on that tractor to get
Hmm.
to these places and play. And then when we were making money for me to pay for my college schooling, Dad would rent the tractor and me out to do people's gardens, and it was amazing. I'd take the disc harrow, not even have to use the plow. Take the disc harrow out there, and they go, okay, from here to here, and from this side to that side, that's all we got room for. And I go, right. Took me about 5 minutes, and most of that was making sure that there wasn't a water line or a corner post, a stake in the way, because I have had a few flat tires running over the actual property line stakes in the corners of some places, and that gets expensive.
My folks were
Do some sketchy shit.
tenant farmers, and the last farm that we were on was only about 300 or some acres. So Dad did what you did. He'd rent out some other acreage.
Mm-hmm.
And this one bit of acreage was across the river from us. And you'd had to go up, up and around and go the front way in. Well, when the river was down, you could go across the river and go up there. Because there was a little patch there that we also rented for pasture. One spring, he tried to do that, and the water was higher than he had anticipated. And he got the Oliver, with the wide front end, stuck out in the middle of the North Fork River. And he waded back and came up and got my brother David, and Dave comes down to look at it, and he's like, I'm not going to get wet. I'll ride on your shoulders out to the tractor and work on the help work on the engine, because it had gotten water in it. So he gets on Pop's shoulder, and they start out through the water. And of course, you know what happened. He fell.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And by the time they finally got the tractor out, word had spread among the neighborhood. And there's about 20 neighbors down there watching these two to work on that tractor and try to pull it out of and try to get it out of the river.
Oh, yeah.
Dang.
I once got the dump truck stuck with a full load of grain on it. We're talking about the 4 tons, thereabouts. And the only thing we had there was a combine. But Daddy kept a logging chain in the truck. So he hooked up the logging chain to the combine and yanked that thing out like it weighed nothing. I'm going, I didn't think it had that much horsepower. He goes, well, it's got a V-belt POV transmission. It doesn't have a mechanical transmission. So I just dropped it down as low as it would go and let it pull.
What's the matter with you?
And I'm going, Daddy, I didn't know it would do that. And he goes, yeah, and don't do that again. When you see it's wet, don't drive the truck into it. So, yeah, I avoided that kind of situation from then on. But,
well, you would have thought Pop knew better, because we lived on top of the hill, and there was a little valley, and that's where the North Fork went. And then up the other hill, and every spring, the North Fork would overflow the riverbanks. So he knew what time of year it was, but he tried it anyway. One year, we lost a cow in the flood, and they were trying to figure out how to find this cow. And then news came over the TV that there was a dead cow caught in the dam. And Dad looks at Mom, and Mom looks at Dad, and Dad's like, "I won't tell if you won't." Uh, but one year, it flooded so badly that it flooded the whole valley.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and we're talking, I mean, the river was probably about 10 foot lower than the road and the bridge that went across it. And it was, well, we had idiot people walk out on the bridge to look at the water, and the water was knee deep on top of the bridge. That's how high the water was.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
And clear across to the bottom of the hill, when it finally receded, fortunately, there was a gravel pit across the road from us. One hole in the road by itself took 8 gravel trucks to fill that hole.
Wow.
And we had a beach that used to be a field. It was just covered with sand.
Mm.
Well, I would love to stay up and listen to more of these stories, but I have had a really long day with hardly any sleep. So I'm about
It's
to get off of here and get some sleep.
We
it's all right,
understand.
Chris.
Rest well, brother.
We're glad you were glad you were with us for both shows,
Yeah.
and you get some sleep. I'm glad you had fun at the convention today.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to hang out with y'all. And
Oh, thank you.
I hope
Always
y'all
good to have you around,
I
even
hope
when you are trying to kill me.
that only happened really once. You just weren't prepared for it. It's
Yeah,
like
I'm
the
getting
Spanish
wise to you
Inquisition.
now.
She'll
Yeah,
get you for
it's like the
that.
Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Hmm.
I break into my youngest's room all the time. I'll just open the door, swing it open, and just yell, "Nobody expects the Daddy Inquisition." They hate that. I enjoy
Yeah.
it thoroughly.
What
Yeah.
you really need to do is to really confuse them is that we shall be forced to put you in the comfy chair. All right, on that one, I'm going to find my comfortable bed and collapse in it. So until
Oh,
next time, y'all take care.
Night,
alrighty.
Chris.
Take it
All
easy.
right, bye.
Oh. Well, I've got to say this is definitely not the usual last man standing conversation talking about farming, but you know,
We've had a few.
And
maybe it's something that at least Donna and I have in common. So it was well, and Chris too. So it came naturally. It was not like we were making stuff up, but
oh, didn't have to make stuff up with my father around. He was a card.
oh,
Did did I tell you the story about when he cut his leg with a chainsaw?
no, I don't remember that at all.
His father is probably personally responsible for there being no brush in Vermilion County. He bought a bulldozer and hired himself out and took out all the hedges and everything. Well, usually his son did that. Well, the business went to his youngest son. And Wayne is younger than my 2 brothers. Yeah. Yeah, there's another story. When Mom was pregnant with Dale, her mother-in-law was pregnant with my Aunt Ruth. And then Mom had David, and then her mother-in-law had Wayne. But I digress. Dad had had surgery, and I don't remember which one. He had so many. And the day before he was due to go to the doctor to get his release to go back to work, his brother Wayne calls and says, "Are you busy? I could use some help clearing this hedgerow out." And Dad said, "Sure." So he goes, and Mom gets a call, and he's in the ER. The chainsaw, he was cutting down a tree and found out it had grown around the fence. And the chainsaw hit the fence, bounced, and fortunately only cut about an inch deep before the chainsaw stopped. So yeah.
I'm cringing just thinking about that.
Yeah. So they rushed him to the ER, got him sewed up. Next day, he went to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Well, how's my incision doing?" And Pop replied, "Well, the one you did is all healed up. The one I did is just starting." And the doctor's like, "What?" So he tells him what to do, what happened, and the doc's like, "Okay, you can't go back to work yet. I'm gonna say that it's because of the incision I made, and we'll let you heal up a couple more days before you can go back to work."
Yeah, because that would have been covered.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's amazing what a good doctor can pull off by a little jiggery pokery with the paperwork.
Yeah. But
It's hard to find a doctor like that these days. It really is. They're more you're on your own. Good night.
yeah.
Rubber stamp
Nowadays.
everything to get your ass out the.
Yeah, really.
Well, people wonder why I stick with Carl Clinic. I had a doctor. My doctor is still like that. Yeah. Most doctors think they know everything and you know nothing. But my doctor knows my history and knows I know what my body is doing. And, and so he listens to me, which is nice because I've been in some ERs when the doctors didn't listen because they were the doctors.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I can't put an IV in that arm. I can put an IV in anything. You can't put an IV in that arm. You're going to blow the vein. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Out, in. My body's changed since then. But at that point in time, they tried it. And yeah, they blew the vein. They had to go to the arm I told them in the first place. Which they didn't want to do that arm because, they got the blood pressure cuff on that arm. It's easier to move the blood pressure cuff than try to, poke me 15 times with a frickin' IV, Oh well.
Yeah, it's astounding that
time is free.
Just because we've been driving this vehicle for so long, we know a little bit more about our body's individual physiology than somebody that's just looked at us and said, "Okay, yeah, this, that, and the other thing." It's like my reaction to having a migraine. I know what works. And what works is not analgesics. It's a dark room and a Ziploc baggie full of ice cubes. And don't bother me, I will scream.
So
Until
last year,
until the pain goes away. What was that, Richie?
last year I had a fun trip to the doctor. So the insurance for my prescriptions sent me a couple of nasty grams. They didn't want to go and um, authorize the blood meter I've been using for years. And then they also wanted to uh, no longer cover um, my Trulicity, which reminds me, I need to take my Trulicity later today. Um, but anyways, um, so the doctor's like, looking at this letter that I brought in from my insurance company, and he came back and in the room with me, just sitting there, postponed my appointment while he's sitting there and just dictating this letter because he sucks as a typist. So everything he does is speech to text. And of course, he's an Indian doctor with a slightly English accent. But he's from Canada, not from either India or England. Go figure. Anyways, so it's he's sitting there and he's just ripping just being completely savage to the insurance company, and I'm just sitting like, oh, I am glad he is on my side.
Mm-hmm.
As the reason that this is prescribed is because he's a diabetic who is morbidly obese. This is shown to help lose weight. He also, if it has, leg swelling. So this is also shown to be good to help with the heart and blah, blah, blah. And then, sending this kind of letter to, a patient is, terroristic. You're holding their meds and their health hostage. And I'm just like, my doctor is savage. I love him.
Everybody needs at least one doctor like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got no bones about telling me when I've done something stupid, and I appreciate that. I don't know everything. I do know how my body runs, things of that nature, but he knows how a body's supposed to be tuned. And it's we have some good conversations, and he's like, I hope you're happy with me as your doctor. I'm like, yeah, doc, I've got no problem with you because, again, you've got no point, or not point, you've got no bones about, no pun intended, telling me when I've done something stupid. Mm-hmm. And he'll just look at me like, seriously, you did what? All right, this is how we're going to try to fix it.
Okay. Yeah. You may know how your body runs, but sometimes you need the points adjusted.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really good about that. He's really good about. He did get mad at me. He's like, "Why do you check your sugar 2 hours after a meal when I just tell you just need to check it in the morning every day?" I'm like, because I kind of want to know how certain foods affect my blood sugar so that I can try to adjust my diet properly, because you want me to lose weight. And if my sugars are jacked all the way up, the insulin's not going to be released or be getting, the insulin's not going to release the fat, the sugars that are in the fat to, turn the fat back into whatever, so I can burn that off. And, I do know a little bit, but it's because I'll go in there and I'll be like, okay, so this is what's going on. This is what I looked into. you know, as far as things go, what's going on? You know, is this something I need to be concerned about? You know, or is the TV trying to goad me into something that I really don't need to be looking at and stuff like that? And he'll look and he'll be like, okay, yeah, this might work. Or, there's a product out there that'll do better for you and stuff like that. But he knows I'll research. Go figure. And then it's Misty had something, and he wrote it down, a couple things down on a notepad. He's like, "Here, take this home to your husband. Let him research it. He can explain it to you." But yeah, I'm well known in my doctor's offices for going, "Oh no, that makes sense because of blah blah blah," and they're like, "I've never had a patient actually draw that." Yes, that works. Yeah, but then again, my job is translating technology to the everyman and everyone,
Yes.
or every other, depending on whatever. But I'm like, I'm good at my job. I've done my job for a long time. It's I have a really good grasp of going, oh, so you mean this? Yes. Nobody ever caught that. I'm like, hey, boo boo, I'm not your average man.
Get out of my brain, Richie.
Ranger Smith, is it okay if we go steal some picnic baskets?
Yeah.
As long as you bring me any wine bottles inside, yeah, okay.
But so that's fun. But it's fun.
That's kind of like what some of the things that I do at work is, because I write out all these spreadsheets for me to do my reports on, and I make sure that that Excel does the math for me. So all I got to do is type in the measurements that I get, and it does everything else and turns it into numbers comprehensible to whoever it is I'm reporting to, whether it's an engineer or a supervisor or whatever. And no big deal. And then I'll be sitting there working on something, and one of my coworkers will walk up and they'll see me type in my measurements, and they'll see the computer doing the work. And I'm going, yeah, you don't have to use a calculator for this stuff. I'm not going to use a calculator for this stuff. This is a calculator. It's a computer. That's all it is. It's a calculator. So I once I figure out how to tell it to do the math, it'll do the math every time the same way, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I even learned how to tell the darn thing to oh, if this happens, pop up a red flag and go, that doesn't pass. You need to go get another one and do another sample and see if this particular time period needs to be put on hold or thrown away because it ain't up to the standard. And they go, you're a wizard, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, technically, no. Realistically, if it helps you understand what I'm doing, I don't care what you think of me as.
I've got a user that when we put classes out on the calendar, she always looks to see who's leading the class. And certain of the other trainers, she'll pass on the class if there's another class that I'm training that's the same topic. Because they like the way I can explain things.
Yeah. it helps if you actually learned everything the hard way, and you're good at skipping over all the fun stuff that you did learning it the hard way, and you can explain the results from this action or that action. Cut through all the stuff that hey, that was the fun part, but you just want to know how this does this.
What I tend to do that some of the other trainers don't is I'm like, all right, what is it that they want to do or need to do? Okay, what's the easiest way to say this that is showing it the easy way, but not calling them idiots?
Yeah, being polite, and believe me, there are times when not being polite is really tempting. Seriously, there are not 37 letters in the alphabet, dude. Um,
Not in English,
Oh man.
but I also go the extra mile and I explain why.
mhm.
This is why you do this. This is why you do that. Because any idiot can learn how to do something, but to master something, you need to learn
The
why. You do it.
why, yes, indeed.
Because it's
I
like,
agree.
okay, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. It's not letting me. Well, the reason that it's not letting you is because you didn't follow the why. You do this because of this reason here. Well, this is not going to fit into that reason. So basically, every training class, I give basic logic
It
as
helps.
part of the class.
hmm I wind up. See, all the stuff that I do with Excel is for my own benefit. It's to make my job easier. It's to keep me from unnecessary skull sweat and unnecessary repetition. So once I tell the computer, when I type in this number, do this. If I type in this number, do the other thing. If I type in this number, show me a red flag and tell me I need to go out and look at this stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Be
and
right back.
sometimes it's a little weird, and it gets convoluted, and it's basically algebra and logic combined. And yes, I know algebra is not always logical. It's supposed to be, but real world don't agree.
At work, I use Excel to show my boss and my boss's boss the reason why I need to be kept around.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to do this.
Exactly.
That's why you hired me. Well,
Um,
technically, my boss and my boss's boss didn't hire me. Their predecessors did. But you know what I mean.
I do indeed. Um, Last time that we had to renegotiate the union contract, um, someone in management thought that my job was no longer necessary. Yet I keep being given new assignments because they tell me they want something and I figure out a way to make it happen. So they get this information that they can use in their presentations in their meetings, and it makes them look good. And I was told, well, there's no way that I can justify your job anymore. I'm going, you remember why my job was created? It was to keep your boss and your other partner engineer from having to do my job. I just make it look good. I make it look easy.
My boss is always begging me to make sure that I take care of my health to the best of my ability because they are aware that my presence in the firm helps justify their presence in the firm.
Mm-hmm. That's an argument I should have used. Yep. I think that would be a powerful argument. You can justify my job by saying, well, you don't want to get fired because I'm not doing the stuff you need to have the numbers from to be able to do your job.
I don't have to tell my boss that. I'm the only technical trainer that actually that bothers to learn the technology behind why we're doing what we're doing.
Once again, we come back to the why.
Exactly.
When I was working at the florist,
Oh, yes.
it had been a particularly rough time, and I don't remember exactly what was happening, but my boss looked at me and said, "You're not indispensable, you know." And I looked at him and like, dispense with me, please. Go ahead, just dispense with me, please. Funny how he never did that.
Uh-huh. They figured out where the real power lays.
So shortly after my boss was hired, she brought me and the other trainer in Chicago into the training room, and she's given us this whole big speech about how we can all be replaced and blah blah blah, and meanwhile I'm just like, whatever, you know. Yeah, I understand I can be replaced, but the thing is, the pain in the ass that it's going to take for you to replace me. Do you really want to go through that? But I'm like, we'll table that discussion for now. My other trainer that I was with for years afterward was always pissed off that one of the first speeches and first conversations we had with our new boss is, we can all be replaced. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing, anyone coming in, that's going to be their first thing is we can all be replaced. Let's work together. Let's do this the best we can, kind of a thing. Not, we can all be replaced. I can fire you tomorrow. It's not the Dread Pirate Roberts, good night, Wesley. I'll probably have to kill you in the morning. It's, try to put a base understanding and try to get us all to be able to work together. And yeah, that never worked.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, I did kind of task him a bit. For one thing, I had a sign on my desk that said, "Do you want to talk to the boss or there's someone who knows what's going on?" And then he got one of those cups that says, "Damn, I'm good." I found one and I had to buy it and take it to work. And it said, "Hell, I'm better."
I love my niece. They gave me that for officiating their wedding. I was so tickled at that. But yeah, ever since then, my boss has been like, don't be sick, because, if you get sick or if you get hurt or anything like that, then, I know I'm screwed because I can't do any of this. I'm like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I will try not to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not making any promises. Someone has a little bit more say so than me.
I've told the people at work that once I retire, if they panic call me in the middle of the night, I'm going to charge a consultant's fee. Even if it only takes me 5 minutes and I don't even have to get dressed and drive to work to fix the problem. just tell them over the phone how to fix the problem. And they're going, well, that'll never happen. I'm going, wait and see. You don't know what all I do. You just know the results that you get. So whenever I get that call, and I'm sure I will, in the middle of the night sometime, this ain't working. What do we do? Spend money, basically, but you don't want to hear that. So here's a good workaround. That'll be $2,000 an hour, please. 5-hour minimum.
So my best friend used to be the network administrator for a fairly decent sized plumbing and heating distribution company. So we had stores all over the U.S. But he set up the network a special way, and then he got me brought on board to become a help desk technician for the same place. But he taught me a lot of the stuff that he did for the network, because if he was sick that day or something like that, he could trust me to do some of the stuff to get things fixed if, shit hit the fan type stuff. They brought in a junior administrator for him, which we read the writing on the walls like, okay, they're looking for someone cheaper. So, sure enough, about 6 months to a year later, there is a mass production in force, and my best friend and I were the first two people let go from the company. And I'm like, okay, on the day that everything's supposed to go kablooey, you fire the two people who know the network better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my best friend let the junior, technician know that, hey, the junior network admin know that, hey, if you have any problems, call me. This is my hourly rate for consulting to fix things. The guy called my best friend numerous times over the next few months to get things, so that someone other than Jeff and I could understand. But paid Jeff out of his own pocket. So for a couple of hours of troubleshooting, the guy basically forfeited, a couple days worth of wages. Because Jeff wasn't cheap.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea.
When
the thing is that should have been charged to the company, but the guy's like, no, I'll eat this out of my own pocket. And Jeff's like, dude, you should charge this to the company.
Mm-hmm. When we had the computer club, Carl would help people, and back then I think he was only charging like maybe $20 an hour or something like that, because it was more of a hobby than anything. In the group, we had this one older gentleman who wanted to move ahead and have a computer and be part of the computer age, but he didn't want to spend money on it. So he had the cheapest, crappiest computer.
So you met my father.
And he was trying to add things to it to make it faster, to make it better. Which,
you have met my father.
If you think about it, if you just spent that money on a good computer.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes to Carl and says, I need you to help me fix my computer. And Carl considers how this man's been behaving in the club and everything. And he says, well, before we start, I charge $50 an hour. and I always get paid for 1 hour, no matter how long, no matter if it takes less than an hour. And the guy's like, oh, okay, well, I'll call you. And then he never did. So yeah, Carl's like, yeah, I more than doubled what I usually charge because I knew that he would never pay it and I wouldn't have to put up with it.
Yep, that's the
I'm
idea.
usually unless it's my parents or my siblings or before this past summer, my in-laws. Yeah, mine was $60 an hour, minimum 2 hours. Even if you cancel before I leave the driveway, we're done. It's fine. It's all even. If I pull out of my driveway, if my bumper hits the street, it's immediately 2 hours worth of time minimum. And then whatever parts on top of that. My bench time alone, my time was $60 an hour, and that got most people to leave me alone.
Yep.
Yeah. If you actually tell them you know exactly how valuable you are, they will go, I ain't spending that. Suffer. Sorry. Figure it out yourself. I did.
And you don't want my friends and family rate. My friends and family rate is higher. There's a sign in this mechanic's garage that I love. To fix your car, it's this much per hour. Excuse me. It's this much per hour. If you watch, it's this much more per hour. If you try to help, it's this much more per hour.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
the
like,
blue.
I need that for PCs.
Yep. Basically, it's like the blue touch paper and stand well back.
But fun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that doesn't work with my brother-in-law. He'll pay the price. He goes ahead and pays the inflated price, or will do something equal to the price in order to get Carl's help.
Hey. If you wanted cheap, you wouldn't have done away with my job to start with.
Exactly.
Now that I'm having to do it in my copious free time, you're going to have to pay for what you're interrupting in my private life to work for you temporarily to get whatever problem it is solved. And what you're paying for is everything that I have learned that you have no idea what was to start with, and probably wouldn't understand it if I explained it to you in words of less than 5 syllables.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, they've got no idea what I do. They've got no idea how much easier I make their job. And somebody thought it was economically viable to give me $500,000 and tell me I can never come back to the building again, so that I would retire. And then they find out I don't know how to do this. He made it look easy. That's the thing. If you can make it look easy, you're pretty much on a level that's I don't want to say incomprehensible, but they don't want to invest the time in figuring out how to do what you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, my temporary manager, when I turned in my resignation, found that out. He thought that the little gal I was training to help me in the office knew enough to carry on without me. So he made me sit for the 2 weeks in the break room and read a book. Couldn't talk to him about work, couldn't talk to him, couldn't answer questions. And came the time to run the bill, to send out the bills and run the reports. She's like, what do I do? And I'm like, can't tell you.
I'm
Got to
not
find out
allowed
for
to say.
yourself. And and I told her, I says, it's nothing against you. This is what I've been told. And I can tell you right now, I can't sit here in this break room and tell you what to do because I would have to be at the computer. And if I go in the office and he finds out, it's going to be you as well as me that gets yelled at.
Yep. I am still looking forward to retiring, but I shudder to think what they're going to misunderstand and not be able to cope with when I'm gone.
You got to walk away clean, Dan, because the way the way they are, you just got to let them
Hey,
stew in their
crash and
own
burn.
juices, Yeah.
You you made the choice, crash and burn. I'm going to enjoy not having to come back here. Um,
Big
but
old case of F around and find out.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And
It works on corporate level too.
Yep.
now I have decided there's going to be a select few people that I have um, found that understand just what I do and still think I'm Mr. Scott from the Enterprise, and I'm gonna I have already got my little personal directory in the company network set up. I'm going to copy all of that to a hard drive, or not hard drive, a thumb drive, and hand it over to copies to maybe 3 people, and they're going to be able to understand, and they're going to be able to use it to their advantage once I'm no longer there. But other people are going to be less than receptive to having somebody else do what I do because they want it done their way.
Mm-hmm.
And their way is stupid. It's not going to work. If you want this, you need somebody that knows how to do this. If you want that, you need somebody who knows how to do that.
That's how I got into having to do the phishing tests for setting up
Yes.
the campaigns and stuff like that because the person on the security team that did that is no longer with the firm. So the CIO at the time, who is now our COO, was like, all right, Rich understands this program. He does that side of it. Screw it. He does this side of it now too. So I wasn't offered to do it. I was told I'm doing it.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
But the thing
yes.
is, I like the COO. He's a good guy. Um, and I like the director of security. He's a pretty good guy. So, having to moonlight and a couple hours every other month, go and do a few things for them. I don't mind that at all. Now, if they were dicks, on the other hand,
Yeah,
know.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it weren't for these 2 or 3 people that I know understand, or once they actually see the math, will understand how I do what I do and why I do what I do, I would not even make the effort. I just go ahead and let it run. When I walk out the door, y'all are screwed. Sorry, you made the bid. Now
As I
lay.
say, they screwed themselves though.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
But because I know these 2 or 3 people that are young enough to be potential long-term employees there, and I like them, I will basically what I did years ago when they asked me to, I will write a training manual, but only these select people are going to get it.
Well, that's like this spring will be 35 years since I quit that job. I still will not speak to that temporary manager if I ran into him at a local funeral home.
I
And
wouldn't even
people's
acknowledge
like,
their existence.
I don't. And people's like, why are you holding a grudge? And I'm like, I'm not holding a grudge, but why should I be friendly with somebody who basically screamed at me almost every day for 6 months until I finally said, screw it, I'm out of here. I don't care what kind of face he puts on, because I did run into him one time, did not know he was working at this one particular funeral home. And he saw me and he was all grins like he just saw his best friend and starts walking over to me. And I just went, I'm not being paid to be nice to you anymore. And just turned around and walked away. And no, I'm not going to be friendly towards somebody who treated me that way.
Hmm. That's absolutely understandable. Now, I feel sorry for several of my coworkers that are, I can see the writing on the wall. They're going to be told to do what I do when I'm gone. It's not part of their duties now. It shouldn't be part of their duties. But in order to keep from putting somebody else in my position, it's going to get spread out, and these people are going to be left with the dirty end of the stick. And I do
Mhm.
not like that one bit.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, no, not at all. And actually, there's only maybe one of the 4 of them that if I were to sit down and explain what I do, would get it. The other 3, not going to put the cell phone down long enough to even listen.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you don't pay attention to the job, if you don't do things in a timely manner, if you put things off and put things off and put things off until it's deadline time, there's nothing I can do for you
No.
because I'm already doing it for them. They just don't know it. Once they realize, it's going to be too late. I will be out the door and collecting my monthly pension, and don't call us, we'll call you
Yep.
on my part. Um, I wish it didn't have to be that way, but the writing is on the wall, and I know company management well enough to know exactly what's going to happen and how short a time it's going to be before it happens. It's like being psychic, except all it is years of experience. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm no longer employed by you. So I
Mhm.
don't have to put up with you. If you want to scream and shout and jump up and down and stomp your feet, I've raised many infants before, and basically, it ain't gonna do nothing to me. I don't care. You had your chance.
Yep.
Take your best shot. It's one of the nice things about being union. They have to follow the contract. They can't break the rules, or their lawyers go, "What did you do? It's on paper. We can't change it. It's on paper. You signed it. You No, there's no way." Um, it's basically, how can I break the laws of physics?
Mhm.
It's there. It's in black and white. It's very, very plain. It's easily understood by people of even. Oh, I'm not going any further. Believe me, I'm not going any further. Oh, we are being recorded, so
Mhm.
anything I say can and will be used against me in a court of law, and I'll just sit there and go, "Sorry." Um, oh,
Yeah.
I wish the company well. I really do, because a lot of people's lives depend on the success of the company. I do not hold out much hope that the company will continue with that success without a lot of, shall we say, creative bookkeeping.
We can use that word. Yeah.
And it's hey, they didn't want people that knew how to do the stuff to train the people that were coming in. They wanted to be able to train the new people in their way, and have been pissed off ever since they found out their way don't work.
Yeah.
Reality is a thing. If you can't face it, you're going to have problems.
Reality has nasty, sharp, pointy teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, one of my terms of phrase that I use is um, there's a difference between should and reality. It's like the difference between a fluffy bunny and a rabid badger. Sadly, reality is usually the rabid badger, while should is the fluffy bunny.
Mm-hmm. This is not a petting zoo. If you don't
And
want to
your
draw,
shorts are made out of whatever the badger's hungry for.
if you don't want to draw back a stump, don't try and pet the badger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're smart, you won't try and pet the fluffy bunny either, because those buggers got a bad temper.
They can.
And big sharp pointy.
And sharp teeth.
And suddenly we've descended to Monty Python. I love it. Oh. It's like
There
every
might be
D&D
a.
game I've ever been in. It starts off as Lord of the Rings, and it winds up being Monty Python.
I
Run
don't know
away!
if Brittany, my middle child, gave my youngest the stuffed animal of the rabbit from Monty Python and the Holy Grail that I bought for my middle child when we went to our first Gen Con together. So, we should have a stuffed animal of that bunny somewhere in this house or in storage. Misty's like, "You really? You want that?" I'm like, "I'm buying it for them. Shut up. Don't dissuade them." Come, child. Let me show you the wonders of Monty Python.
There are those that call me Tim. Oh, Lord. I remember when that was brand new. I went to a theater to see Holy Grail. And by the third slide of the subtitles at the beginning of the movie, I'm going, yeah, this was a good idea. I like this. My sister was bit by a moose once. And those of you, and still, I was exposed to Firesign Theater too. So I'm damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, there, sarcasm and surrealism has permeated my brain for so long.
Absurdity is a second language.
Yeah.
And barely.
Yes, and it's so useful too.
It vies for the top spot, and sometimes wins.
And well, there's a really good reason that when my wife introduced me to the Two Ronnies as a British comedy show, I was right in my element. It's like, and she doesn't like a lot of these standard British comedies. She thinks they're a little bit too absurd, and I'm going, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
So she wouldn't be a fan of, like, say, the young ones.
Yes, she is.
Oh,
yes,
that was
she
pretty
is.
damn absurd too. So
she's not a fan of Benny Hill. She's not a fan of Monty Python. She has had a few positive reactions to the Goonies, and she thinks that Dave Allen is right on up there with George Carlin.
awesome.
Yes, but if you go a little further afield and you get into things that aren't intelligently subtle, that's the stuff she thinks is too silly.
So Red Dwarf is right out.
She doesn't mind my watching Red Dwarf, but she won't watch it with me.
Blackadder.
When I
She
put Red
loves
Dwarf on,
Blackadder.
Misty rolls her eyes. Well, Blackadder was done well. I don't remember much of Blackadder. I haven't watched a whole hell of a lot of Blackadder.
I've got to admit, first season Blackadder I didn't like. When it got to the second season, I go, hey, Why didn't they do this the first time around? I can't stand Mr. Bean.
Oh no.
I think Rowan Atkinson is one of the great comedy geniuses of our time,
Yes.
but I can't stand Mr. Bean. I can't stand people who are intentionally stupid or even comedically intentionally stupid. So I had to wait till second season Blackadder when Rowan was a smart guy and sarcastic as all get out and delivering these fantastic put downs. First season, he was just an idiot. And that's the way the character was written for the first season.
Then they
Didn't
wised
like
up.
it at all. Oh yeah. Well, I believe that people had seen enough of his other work that they reacted in such a way that it was smartened up a bit. It's like there's a difference between showing your erstwhile hero as Forrest Gump and showing your erstwhile hero as Alan Rickman. Even though it's the same actor, and you know the characters are written, not this is how the person is. I'd much rather see witty repartee than slapstick. Slapstick has its place and it's acceptable in small doses, but witty repartee I can take all day long. And
And then we have Monty Python. I wouldn't
Let me
want to
get,
say we're fans, but we have the complete DVD uh, of Monty Python, and we also have all the words, book 1 and book 2, thanks to my sister-in-law.
let me guess, your hovercraft is full of eels. Uh, no. I knew I was going to like Monty Python the first time I ever saw the Dead Parrot sketch.
That's exactly the sketch I was thinking of.
Well,
It's not dead. It's just sleeping.
you stunned it. Oh. And despite the fact that I usually wear plaid shirts, I'm not a lumberjack.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
Exactly.
Oh god, we wore out copies of Monty Python song musical cassettes and stuff like that. Driving very high rates of speed, just belting the lyrics out. You know, always look on the bright side of life.
Life of Brian. Oh yeah. Um, and that's I'm glad I was still in college when I discovered Firesign Theater. There were extenuating circumstances, shall we say. But some of those brain cells I'll never get back.
We had a fundraiser for the Readers Route, which is the literary program that I tutored in reading in English for adults for 20 years. And some of my friends came to help, dressed as Klingons. Wonderful, wonderful outfits. I mean, they were very good. And we put on some skits. One was the Klingon who couldn't read, and it was generally the moral of the story. You know, you're not stupid if you can't read. You just need to learn, which was the idea behind the reader's route. And then one of the Klingons recited "Quote the Raven, Nevermore," which was fun to watch. But the best skit was the two Klingons doing the spam skit for Monty Python.
For a moment there, I thought you were going to say who's on first, but that one would have been hard to adapt to Klingon.
Yeah.
Hey, Richie, I'm sorry. I grew up with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
I watched a lot of Lewis and Martin. A lot of Abbott and Costello. A lot of Bowery Boys. A lot of
Bob Hope and Bing Crosby.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
seriously.
Bob Hope and Bing Crosby was the reason I wanted to go into a life of crime.
You are now the sacred American idiot.
I wanted to be a con man because of Hope and Crosby.
Oh yeah.
A few years later, I realized, oh, that's kind of a dickish route. That's fiction. Yeah. I was young when I realized I wanted to be a con man, and then I was a couple years older when all of a sudden it dawned on me, like, oh, that's not good. But I could still learn those principles and adapt it, which is one of the reasons why eventually my anti-bullying technique was, this is supposed to elicit what reaction?
Uh-huh.
But I love con movies. I love heist movies and stuff like that. The original Ocean's 11 I loved.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be sacrilegious here. I kind of like the new one better. But
the one with the women?
No, not 8. I'm talking. Yeah, I'm comparing Sinatra, Ocean's 11 to
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and while I love Sinatra's Ocean 11, I do like the Ocean 11 with Brad Pitt and why can't I remember his
George Clooney.
George Clooney, yes. I almost said Batsuit with nipples.
Hey, we would have known who you're talking about.
But it
wasn't his fault, but he was getting paid.
That was Silver's fault. Silver demanded the nipples. Why? I have no idea. But he demanded the nipples. Anyways, and then the thong over that girl for some reason, over her costume. Why do you need a thong on top of the armor? Anyways,
to draw attention to her pelvis, of course.
Squirrels, and we're almost getting to the shiny squirrel territory. But no pun intended. Damn it. Anyways, I do enjoy the Clooney
last week it almost was the green room.
Yeah, I enjoy the Clooney and Pitt Ocean's 11 better than I enjoy. But again, they are two totally different films. They take two totally different routes. I just think that all the action and all the effects that they're able to do with the newer version made it a better film.
Yep.
Have you ever seen The Lady Killers?
Are we talking? Because I want to say there's an old black and white version, and then there's also a Tom Hanks version.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen either, but it's. I do enjoy Hanks, and I really want to see him in that villainous role, because it looks like it's a fun movie.
It is. Premise is
You know what?
the
Let's
guy
see.
rents a room, tells his landlady that he has a quartet and they'll be practicing. So when these buddies come over, they put on a record, which is them practicing while they figure out how they're going to rob this place. Except she's a nice little old lady. Not would you like some tea? Of course, they have to scramble and get their instruments because they've been practicing, right? Yeah, both movies, both are good. Both have their merits. Couldn't tell you which one I liked better, but worth it to have a see.
Yeah, it's. I kind of want to see the new one that he is in, where he just plays a grumpy old man.
Otto,
yes.
man named Otto or something like that.
Otto is part of it. Yeah. I don't
Something like
remember
that.
the entire
Yeah,
title.
I think it might be a man named Otto or something like that. Now, did he do the blasphemous route on that one too? A man called Otto.
I've seen the trailer, but I couldn't.
Yeah, apparently it's still in theaters. So apparently it's not a Apple, excuse me, an Apple TV only one like the one he has where it's basically Castaway in the post-apocalyptic Earth with solar flares. Where Wilson is actually, well, it's not really Wilson, but you know what I mean. The Wilson is, so he's got a dog and an AI that he builds to help him, get to safety or what have you. Unfortunately, that one was like Apple TV only. And yeah, I've got enough streaming services. I don't need to,
Really, if I add more streaming services, what was the point of me turning the satellite dish off?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a $300 cable bill anymore. I've got 10 streaming services that are $20 a pop. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I've drawn the line with just the one Lindsay wanted, which is fantastic, and the one that she wanted for one particular movie, which I take more advantage of than she does nowadays because she's seen that one particular movie. And then I've got another one that she has access to that she rarely actually turns on. And I go, oh, but there are things on there I want to watch. So, then basically, at one time they had the Speed Racer movie and nobody else did. And my DVD quit playing.
Mm.
It's like it turned itself off after 3 replays through the movie. I'm going, I wouldn't have bought a DVD if I knew it was limited plays. I want it so that I can sit and watch whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want.
Sounds like the glue separated or something in it.
I don't have the faintest idea. It probably was the player I was using. Maybe the laser quit working. I don't know. I've had that happen with
My
DVD
Tron,
drives.
my special anniversary edition of Tron, quit playing on the main disc because the glue started separating in the layers, so that the layers weren't, because it's multiple layers of plastic compressed together, and then pits and valleys are etched into it. Sorry, I'm nerding again. I do that.
Hey,
Um,
I don't mind.
but so yeah, that's how optical drives work, and then the laser goes over, and then with the way everything bounces back, it translated back into data. And then Blu-rays, you've got more layers and better compression and stuff like that. But that,
Yep.
of course, requires a different type of reader. Although the Blu-ray reader can read um, uh, regular DVDs as well, but the early um, Blu-ray players, if you burned a copy of a movie and then put that into a Blu-ray player, sometimes that Blu-ray player would end up erasing the
Yeah.
so that
Yep.
that disc never worked on anything ever again, because of, again, the type of laser versus the type of laser that you used to. So it was too close and was actually causing things to melt inside.
Yeah. It's all of a sudden you've got an AOL account disc, a coaster.
Coasters.
In other words, yeah, a free coaster, but
But
still a coaster.
It'd be
what's
cool
sad
mobile.
is right over there, I've got a 250 spindle of DVDs and um, of DVDs and CDs that I've burned over the years that I can't use anymore because I don't have a computer with an optical drive.
I bought one that runs off of USB,
I'm about to drop money on that myself. I'm like,
and it was only about $20.
And actually, one second.
Now I've got to say it does require 2 USB slots powered up at the same time.
Mm.
One to give electricity to the actual spinning part of the DVD drive, and the other to read the DVD.
Okay, I was wrong. I only had my 50 spindle that was over there. But we were talking either earlier in the week or last week about 1,000 books being a library.
Uh-huh. That's about 50,000 books right there.
So I've got a lot of books here. I've got a lot of books on multiple drives. I probably have about 250 books on one of my thumb drives. One of my thumb drives alone. So, and a lot of these are Project Gutenberg things, and also things that
Yes.
I cannot find anywhere anymore. But yar.
Well, I have had great success with not only Project Gutenberg, but Black Mask Online. Now, Black Mask is awesome because it is a lot of pulp stuff. Yeah, Doc Savage, Avenger, and things that didn't get that much The Shadow. You know, really hardcore pulp stuff.
I'm wanting to learn to write more in the pulpy type stuff, because of Kelly Carlisle.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she put out her thing about, hey, I've got this anthology, I'm like, the thing is, I've read some pulp, I've watched some pulp adaptations, but I need to immerse myself more into pulp to get the feel of pulp before I try to dive into that universe. Because otherwise, I would have been like, yes, sign me up. But again, it's a case of I don't want to say sign me up for something that is not a genre that I know well enough to not even necessarily do justice for, but not make a complete ass out of myself for. I mean, that's why I mainly stay in fantasy and horror, weird type stuff.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. If you dive into noir, that is I want to say a cornerstone of pulp.
Yeah, yeah, I do enjoy some serious noir, but I one of my favorite movies of all time is still Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Oh yes, yes indeed, yes indeed.
Um,
I
which
actually saw
which
that in a
did
theater. My God, I'm old.
did a lot of justice to the noir type thing as well, and it got a lot of people my age interested in it through a comedy bent. So
Now, yeah, excuse me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
getting close.
my
hands hitting
batteries
the
are
wall.
running low. Yeah. Um, one of the things that I dread being remade for the modern age is the Thin Man movies.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, seriously, you're gonna have to go a long way to find somebody that can pull off a good William Pell and Myrna Loy combination, and
Now,
you're gonna have to dive deeper than just screwball comedies.
I think they did a rather good version of it in Heart to Heart.
Actually, I'd never thought of that before, but you're right.
Yeah,
That's
Jennifer and Jonathan, and they even had the J and the J where they had the N and the N. But yeah, Jennifer was a little more. Do I want to say stronger than Nora? But then again, it was 30 years later.
it was the
Um,
'70s instead of the '40s. Yeah,
right. But the interaction between the two of them, I always thought was very Nick and Norish.
yeah. When you can plot out that kind of dialogue, it's just oh, you're doing a good job right there. And I have actually in my e-reader, I actually have um, the original Thin Man and Return of the Thin Man by Dashiell Hammett. This is what he wrote and got turned into a script.
Mm.
So it's larger, wider, and deeper, basically. But it's still, I mean, you read through those, you can remember individual lines and individual scenes that were filmed word for word. Yes.
Well, no, I saw something that made my dark little heart so very, very happy. Captain Blood is in the public domain.
Oh,
I would love to see. It's when Pirates of the Caribbean came out with Johnny Depp, so many years ago. I thought it was a good movie, but I was sitting there thinking, with the way everything is now, with the way they were able to shoot everything for that, I would love to see a modern rendition of Captain Blood. I would love to see it in just that bigger than life. It's a delightful movie. It's as it is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And it. Yeah, I'm probably going to get yelled at for being a young kid for saying this. Of my top 5 movies, only 2 are black and white.
I'm not going to yell at you. I'm going to say there are more worth exploring.
Well, again, these are also my top 5 movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And those are Captain Blood and Casablanca, in that order.
Okay.
Yeah,
you are forgiven.
Two of my all-time favorites are, and I've got a couple more that are in the top 10, and still a bunch more that are in the top 20, etc.
I'm
there are a lot of black and
Maltese
whites I love.
Falcon is in there somewhere.
Maltese Falcon is in the top 10.
Yep.
Lot of bogey.
Hey.
And only a couple Errol Flynn. But still, it's and actually my number 1 favorite movie of all time is Captain Blood. Actually, there's plenty of others that are wonderful. I love them, but it's Captain Blood is number 1. Casablanca is number 2. So a lot of people my age are going to be like, dude, those are old movies.
Yes, they are.
You little bastards, get off my lawn.
Yeah,
but
your point is
they're still excellent. But
there are things that should never get remade, and those are on the list.
Made to be a 100% shot-for-shot attempt to rebuild.
Yeah.
Casablanca, I would love to see as a modern miniseries, because there's so much more in there that you can unpack and unfold.
Oh, there's a lot of background material that's just hinted at in the original movie. That if it were a miniseries, you'd get a whole lot more out of it, but it would take a dedicated team.
Yeah, I would love to see Rick and Sam and why those two and what those two were up to, because something tells me a little bit of 1940-ish Black Ops type stuff was going on with Rick and Sam. But I would love to see that stuff, and then again I would love to see Captain Blood remade, because looking at some of the long shots, they look so cheesy. But again, this was between the 20s and the 30s that this movie was made, either 1925 or 1935, somewhere around there.
In that time period, yeah.
So I would just love to see what we could do with it, with modern capabilities. And a lot of the other black and white movies that round out my top 10 and top 20 involve Lon Chaney.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Most of them Lon Chaney Sr., one of them Lon Chaney Jr.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, I take that back. My apologies. 3 of my top 5 are black and whites. I forgot about the 1941 Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever read the original Phantom of the Opera novel, Gaston Leroux?
I've started it multiple times and I keep losing it. Because unfortunately, I only have that one electronically.
Oh, okay. I've actually got it in a teeny tiny pocket size hardback.
But if the boxes aren't here, the boxes are in the storage shed, which is just across the street. That contain the bulk of my DVDs. I do have I believe it was 1939 Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney.
I don't remember what year it was, but yes, that one. And
I also have the Roger Corman Little Shop of Horrors over there as well.
oh yeah, that one's amazing. I like to watch that one and then watch the more modern version, which is, in my opinion, and I don't care if I get flamed about this, it is every bit the equal to Rocky Horror Picture Show as far as modern remakes are
Yes.
concerned for the original thing, but musicals. Yeah.
I miss musicals.
Every once in a while, a good one comes out.
I run around the house singing show tunes and stuff like that all the time. So, what little bits of show tunes I can recall? Okay, let me rephrase that. Caterwauling in an attempt to recreate, something that sounds like singing, various show tunes.
Oh, you've heard me before.
I've heard me before.
Oh. All right, we are 1 minute over, folks, and we need to run the end credits here. There's no need for us to not go to an after party if you're still awake. I am fading fast. I don't know how much longer I can last, but
no problem.
we do need to end the show. So
Carl doesn't have a 3-hour show to watch tomorrow.
3 hours.
How long is your the stuff?
And 5 of them would be the top of my head when I doze off. All right. Let me get back here to that screen. All right. People that are watching us live, thank you very much for being here. People will watch us on repeat. Thank you very much for doing so. I'm going to say the rare thing of like, share, and subscribe. It's not that I really care about how many subscribers I've got, but one of these days,
you might as well while they're here.
Hey, one of these days, you might want to watch it again. And if you're subscribed, which is free, you can pull it up on your list of stuff over on the side of the YouTube page and go,
As long as you're not subscribed to 375 channels.
580, yeah.
There's days I'm looking at that like, hell. How does that? What's the exact name of that channel so I can find it alphabetically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There needs to be a keyword search too. That thing that I saw that day, that time.
You need to bookmark it like you can, like a browser. These are my funny videos for this, and you go, oh,
you can actually, you can do that. You have to go back through and make a time-consuming playlist.
Yeah, there's a save in the hamburger menu.
Oh yeah. And now I know what you mean. Yes.
I've got us pulled up over here. There's the like, the share, and then there's a hamburger the 3 dots.
Oh yeah.
And that's where the save function
is. You can save it to a playlist and stuff like that. Yeah, I've got a crap ton of playlists.
And then you only have
I was
1,000
talking about
of
the
them.
channels. Yeah.
Yeah,
If there's the only way we could do. Oh shit! 987. Okay. Apparently, I was subscribed to more channels than I thought.
these things they happen,
Oh yes.
said
Say
the
goodnight,
actress to the
Gracie.
bishop. Ah,
Good night, Gracie.
let's go let Nit Talker teach some folks how to sword fight, and that's just a bedtime story.
All right.
Okay.
For Chris, go good, guys.
Yes.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Transmission overload. System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.